Hi, and welcome once again to Tuesday Community Connections. Just been a few days, 3 days, since we celebrated Independence Day, the 4th of July. And this year it was a bit different than other years simply because of this pandemic that is going on, but still that's an important day for us, and we recognize that day and we celebrate that day. This year maybe on our own with firecrackers or picnics or getting together in a way that's just a little bit different from other years, but we celebrate our freedom. You and I in this country expect that freedom. We know that we are a free country and we know that we've got rights and we know that we have freedom, and so we live just expecting that we can make choices in our lives and that we're not going to be told what to do or that we're not going to be stifled in what we do, that we are free. I mean, if you think about it, we even demand freedom, don't we? Think about going into a store, and what if you're going for something as simple as soap and there's only one kind of soap there, one brand? I mean, we get a little frustrated, don't we? We want choices. We want the freedom to choose, not just be told, okay, you want bread, here it is. You want soap, here it is. We demand freedom and we demand choices in just about everything that we do. I have to admit, though, that this year, as I've thought about the 4th of July and kind of where our world is and what's going on, it's made me think a bit about freedom. What is freedom? And we want freedom and we demand freedom, but for what? I mean, I think what we're looking for is the freedom to enjoy life, the freedom to have life be full and to be fun. The freedom to not have to be put in a corner and told exactly what to do, but the freedom to make some choices so that life for us is filled and life for us is full of joy. We want to be in charge in many ways. We want to control what's going on, and so we expect freedom. But I think the biggest thing that we want is to enjoy life. But if you think about freedom and what freedom really is, there's an interesting piece of freedom. Because if freedom is all about me, if freedom is all about I have the right and I get to make choices and I get to decide for me, I don't really care about what you think or what you want, is that really freedom? Or what is it? I mean, sometimes we can do a lot of that, deciding for me and deciding what I want and doing it my way, and it works fine. But if we decide, I don't care about what other people do or what other people need or what other people think, this is what I want. I have the right. I have freedom. And as we often say, this is a free country. I'm going to do it. And so we go forward. What happens? I mean, most of the time there's pushback of one kind or another, right? Either from our friends or our family, our neighbors, our community. I mean, depending on what kind of freedom you're pushing and what kind of thing it is that you're doing, the pushback is going to be greater and greater. And it's all because I want to do it my way. And as we push back, as others push back rather against us, it becomes kind of these divisions once again. So we've demanded our freedom, we've stood our ground, and now we've been pushed back by others. And so what we decide to do most of the time is, how do we win the battle? How do we come back again? How do we react, or how do we respond? Because after all, I have the right. And we end up playing offense and defense and trying to stay on top of the others. But, think about what we've really done. Is there joy in that? I mean, isn't that what freedom is for? To bring us joy in life? And instead, what if we end up engaging in battle, whether it's physical battle or verbal battle or simply doing things to one up the other? Is that joy? Freedom is to bring us peace, isn't it? That we can enjoy life and we don't have to worry. But when we demand our freedom, when we don't think of the other, we're really not at peace. We're kind of waiting for the next thing to happen. Certainly there isn't fullness of life, because part of our life is captured by this trying to undo or get around or one up the other who is pushing back at us. And so we stand with, it's my right to do this. This is a free country. I get to decide. But it's made me wonder, are we really free? Or simply deciding, just for me, I get to do whatever I want? And maybe we don't stop even to think about what kind of life we've created for ourselves. If you look at the book of Galatians, Galatians chapter 5, verses 13 and 14, says this: "For you are called to freedom, brothers and sisters. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love become slaves to one another. For the whole law is summed up in a single commandment: you shall love your neighbor as yourself." We've heard that many times as Christians, haven't we? Love your neighbor as yourself. That's what we are as Christians. But as we read in these verses, don't use your freedom for self-indulgence. I wonder if sometimes that's where we go with our freedom. Not necessarily that we simply have the freedom to choose and to do, but it's what I want and I don't care about anyone else. In Galatians, we read to love one another. That's the most important thing. Even these verses say to become slaves for one another. To become slaves mean to serve, to care for one another. Not necessarily to give up your whole life for them, but rather to care for others, to serve others, to put their needs and their interests at least on equal footing, if not at times above ours. The kind of freedom that they're talking about in Galatians is to give up some of the freedom we have, to not simply do whatever we want because we have the right to do it, but rather to choose to give up some and to show love and respect for others. And when we do that, there is greater peace. When we care for the other and what the other needs and wants and is looking for, give up some of our freedom and they give up some of their freedom, then we have this opportunity to live in peace and to know the fullness of life that God offers to us. I think when we choose to have a little less freedom to care for others, to put their needs and their wants up with ours, then we know more joy and we know more peace. I mean, we do that in some ways if you think about it. You do have the right to mow your lawn at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. No one will tell you that you can't do that unless you get angry neighbors that are wanting to sleep in. But not many of us are going to mow our lawns at 6 in the morning simply because we want to respect our neighbors. Or like me, 10:30 at night. I'm a night person. I mean, I could mow my lawn at 10:30 at night, but I choose not to because there are people that are going to be in bed and I don't want to disturb them. So we give up some of the freedom that we have for the greater good, for peace, for joy. Or, if you think about sharing what you have, sometimes you give up some of what you have, some finances or some of your time, to help someone else. You're giving up part of your freedom so that someone else can know fullness of life as well. Freedom means choices, but choices that lead to community. That's when we know the fullness of life. Community, being together, caring for one another, having the freedom to choose and to live and to be, but always considering the other. It's freedom that isn't self-centered freedom, but freedom that brings us together as one. Our culture these days is a culture that is divided and a culture in which we don't often listen very well to one another. Our focus seems to be so often on my rights and my freedom and what I want, and it doesn't matter what you want or what you need, but this is up to me. I have the right. And we're divided. But I can't say that we're happy. We don't really have freedom, do we? Because aren't we living in fear of what the other might do or what they might say or how they might come back? And instead of the freedom to live in the peace and joy of life, we're living, reacting, and responding to what the other might do. Don't let them get in control, and let's try win this battle over them. We certainly don't know peace and joy, but rather division. And so we can say that we're free, but we're not enjoying what freedom is all about. We claim to be free, but my question is, are we? As Christians, we're called to love one another, to give up part of who we are, ourself, our time, our possessions, our desires, and care for others. It doesn't mean that we're rugs and that we're walked on, but rather that we find ways to live together in harmony, in peace, and then we will know joy. And so as I've thought about freedom, it's not so much being in charge, doing whatever, making all the choices because I have the freedom to do that. But really it's freedom to live without fear. Freedom to live in peace with our neighbors and our friends. Freedom to live caring for others so that all of us might know joy. And to me, that's, I think, what freedom is all about. And that's what we read about in Galatians. Don't you use your freedom for self-indulgence, but use it to love one another. So this week and these days, think about freedom. What kind of freedom do you have? How do you use your freedom? And what is freedom all about? God bless you, and I hope you have a good week.